Hey there. So, here's what I noticed. I went back to school yesterday. I'm in welding. It's something I've always done, but sucked at it. So now I'm going to school to hopefully get good at it or better at it for projects, things that I want to build. And these are my safety glasses. They're not just sunglasses; they're safety. Anyways. What I've noticed was very quickly, with all the shit that you see on TV and everywhere, and you can't avoid, God knows I've tried. You can only watch superhero movies and stuff for so long before your wife's like, oh, I want real TV. And you're like, ugh. And apparently, your wife really gets annoyed with car videos after a while, too. But very quickly, I realized that people are people. I've known that my entire life. See, I grew up in kind of a different world. I grew up in an all-white town. Matter of fact, I remember the first black family that moved into town. Vaguely, I should say. But I do remember the bus going by their house and seeing this black mark in the front yard and a board over a window. And hearing a kid in the back of the bus, I was probably 13 at the time, saying, about time, they need to get them people out of here, blah, 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 blah. I was like, what? That's when I realized that black mark, where a cross had been. I thought, that's fucked up. I didn't really know the kid. They had a son that was in school, and I didn't really know him. Everybody said he was a dick, but I didn't know him, so whatever. Well, I moved a couple years later to another town, and it was a little more diverse. Still very segregated. Matter of fact, where I grew up, black people didn't talk to white people. It's just where it was, and how it was, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it. It's changed some now. You still have kind of segregated town, where the black people live in this neighborhood, white people live in that neighborhood, Asian people live over there, and the Mexicans live over there. That's, swear to God, that just seemed to how it fell out. I don't know if it was a precursor from stuff in the past or what. Never really asked. I was a young man at the time. When I say young, I'm talking I was a kid. It was just the way it was. Matter of fact, I remember the first interracial kiss I ever saw. And it was at the new town I had moved to, which was at least 4 or 5 times bigger. To tell you anything, the town I grew up in had 500 people. The next town over, I think it had about 2,000 people. So I grew up in the middle of nowhere. The town that I was in when I joined the military, I think had like 30 or 50,000. Still a small town, relatively speaking. But for me, it was a city. And across the river, there was a city. Well, so that's the world I grew up in. Hell, I remember seeing the Klan march in the parade, like the 4th of July parade, and Job Corps right behind them. And the next year, Job Corps was in front, and the Klan was behind them. And I remember there was an uproar when they said, you can't march no more. And that was pretty much the end of the parade at that point. But then I moved to Henderson, and things were a lot different. Still a little segregated. I mean, it was. I mean, you had like what we considered the black area of town, but people talked, and you got to know people. I knew a lot of black people at that point. And I'd figured out at that point, and like my mom had always said, black, white, green, or purple, people are people. Treat them the way you want to be treated. And then when I joined the military, all those stereotypes I'd had about all these different ethnicities went right out the window, because we were all going through the same thing. We were all at ground zero, and we were all moving forward. It was really interesting. I learned a whole lot about people. You learn to judge people on their actions, not on their words or the color of their skin. Maybe that's the problem. People are so quick to judge people on the color of their skin, not on their actions. That's what I look at. I really don't care if you're black, white, green, or purple. Are you a dick? Did you do what you said you were going to do? You know. And if you did, all right, then we can carry on, because it means you're an upstanding person, and I can handle that. If you didn't, and you're shiesty, well, fuck you. I'll avoid you like the plague. Shiesty means crooked, by the way. Or underhanded. Backstabbing. It's just kind of a generic term for somebody that's no good. Well, in the process of joining the military and seeing the world the way I saw it, I found out that people were people, and that if we celebrated each other's differences, but even more than our differences, our commonalities. Why don't we celebrate our commonalities? We focus so much on how everyone's different and how they're all fucking special. We're all fucking special. How about we stop focusing on that for a while? Let's focus on how we're the same. We all love our kids. All right, there's some that don't, but most of us love our kids. We all just want to live in a world where everyone says hi and gets along, right? That's the world we want to live in. Everyone wants to live in a world that's peaceful and honest and caring and loving. That's what we all want. So why don't we focus on that? Instead of focusing so hard on how we're all so different, why don't we focus on what we have in common? We all want a good standard of living. We all know that to get there, you've got to put in some effort. That's a given. So why don't we focus on that? Why don't we focus on pulling each other up instead of putting each other down? But maybe, just maybe, if we all started focusing on that, the world might be a little better off. It's just my thoughts. Just my thoughts. Maybe if we stop focusing on how different we are and what separates us, and how you can't see the world through my eyes and I can't see the world through your eyes, because it's true, I can't see the world through someone else's eyes. Their life experiences are completely different. Just like me. I grew up in a very racial area, but I had parents that were not. I grew up in an area where, well, if I had followed that route, I'd be a completely different person. But I didn't. I made choices, and those choices led me down different roads. They allowed me to see the world as not black, white, green, or purple, but I see a world based on values. My next door neighbor, she grew up in New Jersey. Forgot the exact town, but she grew up poor. And she moved here, and they're like, oh, you live in an all-white neighborhood. She's like, no. Our neighborhood's pretty much 50-50. Matter of fact, Norfolk, during the last census, was something like 43, 45, and then all the other ethnicities thrown in there. So, like, damn near half and half. And it is. We live in a very, very diverse neighborhood. But she's like, I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to become a nurse. And they were like, well, why are you going to do that? Why are you getting so uppity? She's like, because I want to do something with my life. And as a guy who grew up middle class in the middle of nowhere with parents that didn't finish school, maybe I'll cut that part out. As a guy who grew up in the middle of nowhere and education wasn't really pushed, and who chose a path that was different than anybody he knew, I understand where she comes from. So yeah, stop focusing on what makes us different. Start focusing on what makes us the same. Because she loves her kids, and he's a good kid, good boy, and she's always having to explain to him that what you're seeing is a small percentage of the world. Most everybody is the same. With that being said, I guess I'll shut up now. Y'all have a good one. Be nice to your neighbor. Say hi to people. It'll make the world a smaller place.